Welcome in. The season is officially upon us. It was a 2-week break. Felt like a little bit longer for the tour. We were gone for a little bit as well, but now putting for dough, much like the PGA season revived. We are here. I'm losing my voice like Ben Rasa. It's contagious, I guess. What's up, brother?
Oh boy, a couple of weeks without golf and I immediately get sick. But I can't be more excited. I know swing season is the most popular time, but when you talk about golf betting, it's a chance to buy early on some of these guys that we haven't seen. It's a chance to cash some big time tickets. So I'm actually really excited to be back talking some PGA.
Nice, man. And let's be honest, you're right. There's going to be some great value here. There's nothing to look back at, right, as far as last week, what have you. So we appreciate you just being part of this here on the Odd Shopper channel. And may I say, with 100% accuracy, Mr. Rasa, the fastest growing sports betting community on YouTube. I love saying that on our VODs as well. Like anytime I get a chance to, it's an awesome feeling. So we continue to grow. You out there, thumbs up, subscribe, notification bell, so you don't miss when this show drops. Chris is producing as always. All right, I got in all the business. We're going to promote some cool stuff, including our Insider Discord here coming up today. But let's just look, because you bring up an interesting point, which is swing season, value, maybe not the biggest names that you're going to see in a tournament like this. So where is the strategy? Like, where does that begin? We also have to touch on live and who's leaving it, et cetera. But when you just look at the overall big picture of this week, what jumps out at you that also in the backdrop you think does have something to do, as Chris puts up, with some trends for the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is swing season. I always view it as a chance for some of these guys to break through. We've seen this so many times with talented players that have really represented themselves well. They play in these where they're more of the favorites than middle of the pack. And I'll throw some names out there. Eagle is here. McNeely is here. Pendrith is here. Davis Riley is here. All of these guys have flashed. They've been so close on the PGA Tour, and now they're here in the swing season. And it's not going to be a unpopular take to think that some of them are going to notch their first victory in just a couple weeks.
We may even be hearing a name or two that you just sprinkled on for us as a look ahead. Now, what do you want to do with the live, right? Because we can't ignore this by any means. We're not betting on this, unfortunately. As soon as we can, then that's going to change the dynamic, I'm sure, at BetMGM, where we're looking at everything. But what are you doing with, I mean, clearly that's impacting the field. And you can make an argument if it's a big name, it might thin a little bit. But I don't know if there's enough volume then, and really maybe enough top-heavy volume to thin out the bigger events. So maybe a smaller, shorter field type event, you may not get one or two guys who are normally there. But what is the general takeaway with some pretty big names and some not so big names moving on?
So I think that we're going to see this become more of a talking point when it gets to January. And when we get to fields where these guys will be playing, I legitimately don't know how many top-end players, no offense to the Fortinet Championship, would have been here. So this is a chance again for guys that are, I say it every year, and I know the format's changing a little bit, but the top 125 retain their card. There's always a handful of guys at the end of the season where I look and I'm like, this guy hasn't made a cut in 6 months. How is he here? It's because he dominated in the swing season. It's a huge opportunity to grab some FedEx Cup points. And we're going to see a lot of guys really focused on starting quickly this week.
That's a good point. And with the thinning of a field like this, and we talk about this depending on what happens throughout the season, right? Because there are times in which you won't get a top-heavy field. So one thing that I think we can look at in this swing season as we open things up really for the show and moving forward is taking advantage of guys who maybe finished pretty good in overall metrics and knowing that that number is probably bumped up because you're taking out a good chunk of the top third of the field of the overall field. Like, does that make sense? If somebody is 30th overall in driving distance last year, you can make an argument depending on who's ahead of them or tee to green, certain stats, total putting, what have you. If there are enough big names that are not in this tournament, that I think accentuates somebody's abilities and metrics.
Yeah, I mean, to further that point, understanding where guys have played, we run into that a lot where it's like, oh, this guy, he hasn't been playing great. Well, if you just played the US Open and the Open Championship, it's a little different than if you played the Barracuda. Like, so some of these players, obviously, Hideki and Max Homa, they play with the best of the best in the majors. There's a lot of other guys in this field where we don't see them at those courses. So it's very important to kind of measure quality of field. And that's one of the blending points that makes swing season so interesting.
Love it. Absolutely love that we can start talking about a PGA event and look at some familiar names. And you know what I truly missed more so than any? Do you want to take a guess? I mean, you know me now well enough. I bet you Chris would nail it if we give him a couple of guesses here.
What, but Ricky?
No. Ricky Fowler is done. I'd rather talk about Ricky Barnes than Ricky Fowler.
Yes. Ricky Barnes, sure. Why not?
So you know what I miss is that look right there. Is hitting you with somebody who's a $175 to win a tournament, and your reaction, because we don't talk about this ahead of time outside of maybe a sheet that I don't even think you look at once you fill your names in. So your initial reaction is what I've truly missed here in our short off season of me. I can't wait to get to my $150 to 1 for you.
Yeah, I mean, in a field like this, it actually could come to fruition, but that's why I love swing season. There are names that we're going to mention today that we have never mentioned on Putting for Dough. I know we got a lot of loyal listeners out there, and we appreciate people coming back for a new season.
Yep.
New guys, new opportunities, and that's what makes this so great.
All right, so let's tell you about what's happening first and foremost at BetMGM so you can take advantage of everything that we give out. And as we always say, and I'm sure you hear it, it's almost over the top now, drilled in your head, but we have so much content on this channel to where if you have a risk-free bet, there are plenty of places to go. And yes, I'm always pumping up your play of the day because that's usually the best place to start, but it's a $1,000 risk-free bet. We remind you, there's a link below, right? We remind you, you can use the code PUTT4DOUGH, P-U-T-T for dough. It doesn't have to be $1,000. Somebody, oh man, I'm not putting $1,000. It could be $25. Your bankroll for the PGA season might be $300, and you might be placing smaller unit size bets, which is cool. It's totally fine. Whatever your bankroll is, put that in. Bet that immediately on whatever you'd like here on the Odd Shopper channel, because if you win, well, you've probably doubled, maybe tripled your bankroll, if more. And if you lose, that's your bankroll anyway. So you're right back to where you begin, Ben, with BetMGM.
Yeah, great opportunity. Listen, we preach it's very difficult. Sports betting is hard. When the books, they want your business. There's no doubt about it. Let's not say they're not doing you favors for no reason. They want you to come in and they're willing to pay for it. So they're going to give you opportunities up front to take advantage. I know a ton of people have, but there's a lot of new people watching the video. So we want to at least make you aware of some of those opportunities over at BetMGM.
All right, my friend. From there, we begin and we look at the overall board here, what we can gain from any value. You mentioned Homa, Hideki, probably not going to squeeze much out of that. So where does the value up top truly begin? And I think this also is going to, especially for me, when I look at a guy that's maybe up or quasi up top, this is also going to open up your strategy for this specific tournament, not just maybe swing season itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the first question is, do you want to go to one of the big three? And that's Hideki, Max Homa, or Corey Connors. All three sit about 16 to 1 or better out there. I think it's totally reasonable to pass on that entire range. If I did go to one, it would be Corey Connors, actually. Ball striking extraordinaire, automatic off the tee. He hasn't lost strokes off the tee since early 2021 in strokes gained events that we have the data for. At the Tour Championship, he lost 8 strokes putting last time we saw him. Tee to green's been immaculate. So I look at this at a field where we saw Max Homa dominate tee to green. Corey Connors can implement that 16 to 1 in the outright market. If I was getting my card started with one of the quote unquote big three, I would actually go to Corey Connors this week.
How much of that is his ability to win this? And look, you're not taking somebody if you don't think they could win it, right? So let me just pause there. If somebody's thinking like, what are you talking about? You're not picking a loser. I get that. But how much of this specific play is I'm looking at taking somebody that I think at the top, because you can make an argument that Hideki, Homa, Connors each have a legit share, win share, if you will, of winning this thing versus just getting the better number. And I don't mean to say just as far as to minimize that, but trying to look at where your mind is for this. If it's just a matter of, hey, Connors, in your opinion, is as good, if not equal win share percentage of the other two, but look at that number versus Connors is just the better golfer right now than both Hideki and Homa.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are close enough where I think it's negligible. I think that Corey Connors, given swing season, I don't like to infer where golfers are at, but to me, Hideki would be the one who probably is least concerned with how he plays.
Okay.
These guys, and Corey Connors, as good a player as he is, and he's a damn good player, he still has a lone win out there. And he's been very close in a number of events over the years. You know, at Valero, he broke through on tour, but it's not like this guy's got a multitude of trophies in the closet. This is a big deal for him to get a good start to the season.
All right, I'm going to hit you with my guy. He's towing the line, if you will, between up top and mid-range, although I think with our mid-range guys, he's on the other side, closer to the top. And I don't even want to get – this was my thinking today. I don't even want to give you – until we get to the mid-range, I'll start applying my strategy. I'll start applying some metrics that I looked at. I just want to give you a guy who I think is popping, and I don't think is as popular quite yet, but probably will be as we get closer. And I think this number is going to dip, even if it's a little bit, but Taylor Pendrith.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Pendrith is a perfect example of swing season golf. He is someone that kind of got acclimated on tour, wasn't doing much, and then he found his groove late in the year, second at Rocket Mortgage, 8th at BMW, comes into this season. Obviously, he has his sights set on bigger goals, winning on the PGA Tour.
Right.
So my biggest question to you, he's clearly trending upward. He's with guys like Maverick and Thigala, who we have more of a body of work on. We've seen them do it a little more consistently. Even Cam Davis, they're all 28-1, 30-1 range. Is it just his recent form in terms of how he finished that kind of struck why you went there over those other guys, or was it more than that?
So it's a combination. I think it's a combination of finishing strong, as you mentioned, and knowing the variance in this game and how important catching some sort of heat can be. And look, we don't have the sample size with Pendrith like we do much older and more veteran golfers on this tour. I understand that, but it's part that, and it's also part expecting that. And it's not a knock on Thigala or McNeely, although there might be some McNeely fatigue as far as, you know, continuing to pound him, even though this is a pretty decent spot for him. I'm anticipating, Ben, that Pendrith is going to become more of a public play and that number is going to drop. Now, I don't know if that's a even good strategy to apply here, but when we do this show, we're doing this early in the week. And just from reading and looking and following some people like you who are smart in this game and understand the difference of where a spread could be or number could be or line could be now versus moving forward, I think it's going to dip. I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at Pendrith at 22 or 23-1.
Yeah, I mean, it's the type of thing. So there's two questions within one there. First question is the most obvious is, are you willing to bet him at any number? And then what is that number? Just like if the number goes down, you always want to bet him at the best number you can get. But there's also the question of, do you want to bet him at all? So obviously I totally agree with that. I'm going to kind of blend if I can.
Yeah, please.
Because my mid-range guy, he's right there with Taylor Pendrith. And I know I preached all new season, different things, and then I just pick Rio like I do every week anyway. 40-1 out there, 33-1 at BetMGM. You can shop that line and find 40. He finished really strong as well. Second at John Deere, second at 3M. 31st at St. Jude, 19th at BMW. Gain strokes putting to pair with his tee to green game. I love Griot in this spot. Also a guy that's had success, at Silverado, former winner way back in the day when it was the safe way. I think this is a very good spot, and I'm getting a really good number.
Yeah, and even in this field, you're getting a pretty good number for him. 33-1, right, at BetMGM. Not terrible at all. I mean, you're in that Riley, just above Pendrith, Thigala. So you could easily make an argument, as well as we've seen him play, that he should, like, why isn't he in the Cam Davis, McNeely? Why isn't he 500 points cheaper on BetMGM? Because I don't know what the answer would be. I don't know why you could make a 500-point argument more convincing for McNeely, Thigala, maybe Davis, but McNeely, Thigala, Pendrith over Griot. It just didn't jump out like that.
Yeah, and again, you can find 40-1 out there, and that's to me
gigantic.
That's a good number.
All right, let me see here, because I'm going to give you two guys Well, actually, you have another guy too on this mid range. So let's hit that. Unless you
Okay.
want to go back and forth to give your voice. Normally we go you, then me. But if you want to kind of give your voice a break, we can always adjust
No,
them.
I'm all right. After yesterday's NFL show, this is a walk in the park.
Okay. Well, yeah,
It's
but
funny.
you can also get away with talking softly because it's golf and you
Yeah.
have a little Nance channeling there. You can't do that with Lofty and Baker on the strategy show.
It adds to the mystique. And that's what we do here at Odd Shopper. I think swing season, when you talk about public perception, everybody is going to be talking about the young guns, the Thiegelas, the Mavericks, the Pendriths. We can't forget about guys that are just on tour and good players. And Chris Kirk is that type of guy. He's not glamorous. He's been here for a long time. He had a fantastic 2022. The wheels fell off late in the season. I'm going to chalk that up to fatigue. Played a lot of golf and a lot of quality golf. 50-1, though, this is a guy that knows what he's doing. He's been on tour for a long time, multiple winner on tour, and he's seen a resurgence in his career. He can lean on the ball striking. I just love the idea of going against the grain and targeting guys that no one's really excited to see Chris Kirk in swing season break through because he's just a veteran on the tour.
Now, I was looking at him. There was one area that it wasn't entirely convincing because my strategy is going to be flawed here, but watch, something's going to happen. And I'm just looking at two specific key metrics here. And Kirk popped up one, but not the other. And I was looking at, but I love that number. It was really difficult to stay away from that number.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's balancing out, how many guys do you want on the card? And then balancing out the Mavericks, the Thiegelas versus like Steele and Kirk and Griot types that we see year after year. Some of them, they get a win here and there on tour, but they're kind of an afterthought. They're not the hot topic heading into swing season.
Okay. So I'm going to hit you with two guys right now. Steele at 45-1, Woodland at 60-1. And what I'm doing here is trying to take advantage of guys who pound the ball off the tee and can get there with their irons. So strokes gained off the tee, or tee to green, pardon me. Strokes gained, tee to green. Let's do that again. Driving distance and tee to green. That's what I'm looking at. That's all, except for the long shot, because then I flipped it. But this place, we talked about that at the BMW in Wilmington, a little more difficult because some of those greens are lined. You're not really going to get penalized a ton here, especially around the green. So we've seen big hitters win this thing consistently. So I want to target guys, Steele and Woodland at the very least, where Steele finished 26th in driving distance, 42nd tee to green. Woodland also in there, 34th tee to green, 23rd driving distance. So I'm trying to match guys who are good enough in these respective categories, Ben, that when I take a chunk of the guys up top out, they look even better.
Yeah, I mean, well, Brendan Steele, what's there to say? When I think of this tournament, he's the number one guy I think of historically. He's had a just ridiculous amount of success here. Dual winner for a guy that you don't win a lot on tour. So this is tailor-made for him. Gary, I mean, you're going into the bucket. Obviously, I know you'd agree with this, of what we were just talking about. These are guys that we see year after year on tour. They keep their cards. They steal a win here and there. Obviously, Woodland flashed, legitimate form, and then he kind of got hurt. And he hasn't been a factor in majors since that U.S. Open. But these are guys that, again, I think you still have to realize as much as we're going to see one or two younger guys get their first PGA Tour win, we're also going to see some of the veterans add another win to the resume in swing season. Absolutely.
I think you're going to see that chase that we're trying to take advantage of when you're seeing this thinner field. I don't even know where to begin here with you. We'll tell you about the premium Discord coming up, the insider access, what we have going up in a second. But I did want to touch on the going long before we hit our 40-20-10s and just tell everybody how cool this thing is happening here on the insider access. But man, where do you even look and what's even the process for a long shot? Because now long shots in an event like this are probably not even in the long shot events that we're talking, or the other events we're talking about with normal long shots.
So yeah, again, there's two ways to go about it. You can take guys that have a ton of PGA Tour experience with little to no success, or you could take guys that this is their first crack on tour and you're buying low thinking that they might be a real player. Guys who got promoted from Corn Ferry, Europeans. I'm going to go in the first bucket, a guy like Patrick Rodgers, sitting at 100 to 1. I played Patrick Rodgers all the time. He has never won on the PGA Tour. 3 seconds, a boatload of top 10s. We just never saw the breakthrough. And he's just someone he consistently keeps his card without winning. I still believe that Patrick Rodgers has winning talent on the PGA Tour. He's played this event, almost 10 times. He does have one top 10.
Right.
Doesn't really stand out, but driver of the ball, no problem there. Can get it going with the putter, obviously. There's nothing in his form that screams Patrick Rodgers is going to win, but at 100 to 1 in a field with not condensed win equity up top, I think you can target someone like that and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, man, like 100 to 1 in a field like this.
You're really asking it. This is the type of bet. And I know, again, it's not the most glamorous thing, but you're really asking, okay, is Patrick Rodgers ever going to win ever? If you think the answer is yes, you could bet him in this situation for 4 years and you have 100 opportunities. Like, I think he still has a chance to win on tour, and I'm willing to pay for it.
Okay. I love it, man. I love it. I'm going to hit you with something even more egregious.
Please.
And what I did was, instead of going with the, I think, public or maybe even, I should say popular, more of the popular strategy, narrative, what have you, which is taking guys who pound the ball and taking guys who can strike the ball really well. And look, it's hard to find guys who consistently at the top are not striking the ball well. I get that. So when I look at someone like Beau Hossler, Rasa, and let's get his reaction, please, because oh, okay, I thought there was going to be a
no. I'm numb to it at this point, honestly.
But here's why. All right, here's why I go Beau Hossler at 130 to 1. I'm going the complete opposite of the off the tee to green strategy and taking the best available putter with the longest odds on the board. So if in fact this putter does heat up and we see guys who are struggling because the variance of the putter is much wider than guys' irons, this might, like, if Corey Connors has a shitty weekend putting, or if Max Homa can't putt, like if this happens, there's an opportunity for Beau Hossler to sneak in. 130 to 1, I'll take a shot on a guy who I know can putt. And he's not Denny McCarthy, who's got, ridiculously shorter odds. So that's what I was looking at with Hossler.
Same question I asked about Patrick Rodgers. Well, Beau Hossler's been close to winning on the PGA Tour. He should have won already.
Right.
If he wins and you bet him every week forever, you're coming out ahead if he ever wins. I mean, 130 to 1.
Yeah.
You don't need to allocate a lot. I really believe with PGA, you should, before the season, get a list of 3 to 5 guys and say, you know what? I believe in these guys. They're going to win at some point. I don't know when. And just allocate it, whatever, a 1/10 of a unit every time they're in the field, no matter what. And if a couple of them win, you come out way ahead. And I love doing that. I call it macro buying. And Beau Hossler could be on that list for you if you really like the upside.
Yeah, man. I don't think Beau Hossler is going to make my 40-20-10. I can pretty much tell you that. We actually have some pretty good options here, some opportunities to do that. But we got to pimp this out, man. This thing has been fantastic. You have been one of the key people behind this, right, as far as transitioning now from what was a premium Discord to now this humongous, like, premium Discord times 10. And that's our insider access. You, myself, so many familiar faces are on here. Lofty, Ehrenberg, Gajeski, right? I mean, we've got a bunch of guys here. Lindy, right? He'd be upset if I didn't mention Lindquist, that are not just giving you plays and not just giving you as far as some more stuff that you won't get in an average video, but bringing you into the process. And that's huge. Like, for me to be able to go to Raza's page and see what he's thinking, or see what he's thinking through conversation, because it's basically like office hours are just constant. That's helpful when you build your own bets. That's helpful when you're looking at your own stuff. So you really get the process, like why Gajeski is on Cincinnati -20 on a Sunday. Like, that's what you need to hear. Not the Bengals. I meant, University of Cincinnati look ahead. That's all.
True.
I didn't want people thinking Gajeski was giving out the Bengals.
No, don't bet the Bengals. Actually, that's I do kind of like the Bengals, but no,
It's because
this is
Dak's hurt
something
this week. That's why. If Dak were healthy, you wouldn't take the Bengals. You know that.
that's more true than not. It was a concept that we obviously tested out during the summer, and we're so excited to expand it. We've got a little of everything. So if you're looking to improve your process, office hours type strategies, if you want picks, there are picks in there. You know, it's the best of both worlds. You get an opportunity to join a really fun community. I'm always excited about
Yeah.
it. So it's been a long time coming, and we're still just getting started. A lot of new features that we want to build this into, but why not get in on the ground floor, try it out for a week, see what you think, and then give us some feedback, because we want to hear from you guys.
That's the beauty of everything we do, man. Right down to the DNA of it, which is it's a community. It's interactive.
Yep.
It doesn't even matter if it's you or me on a 5 or 10-minute video just talking. It's the chat. It's all there for people. So this is a really good opportunity for everybody to kind of further that and get even closer and more access. So let's look at this is great. We haven't really had a chance to do a 40-20-10, especially with the FedEx and the field just thinning. So we're back to the true 40-20-10. The only rule here is that a guy has to be plus money top 40, and then we build that ladder. So ladder away, Rasa.
I don't really understand this number. This is my favorite bet by far. Trey Mullinax, 40-20-10, top 40 at plus 110. Trey Mullinax, last 5. Winner at Barbasol, 21st at the Open, a major, 37th at Rocket Mortgage, 5th at St. Jude, 12th at BMW. Those are playoff events against fields infinitely stronger than this. Elite off the tee game. He's cashed this in 5 straight events. You're getting plus money. Yes, he's a volatile player. Trey Mullinax is a player, and he's a winner on tour. I'll take plus money here every time. I like the ladder for him as well.
I love it, man. 60-1, I found him to win it, and I actually have that on my card. So while you ladder 40-20-10, I think there's a really good look. I mean, if I can get him at 60-1, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
That's the same number as Woodland. And look, Woodland, I think, is more of a realistic 55-60-1 type guy, but Mullinax, I was a little surprised at his overall and love the fact that you're on him. So with that, 40-20-10, I'm going to keep it simple. This is normally not the case here, but I actually really do like Gary Woodland. I like where he is from a metric standpoint, getting off the tee, strokes gained tee to green, not having to worry about Woodland putting like everybody else in this field. I'm not worried about getting on the green or even putting at that point. So I'm going to ladder him, and he's the same exact number as Mullinax, plus 110, top 40. He's the same number, plus 275, 20. And then top 10 is a big number for him and Mullinax as well. And also 60-1. So that's kind of where I'm going. Not only 40-20-10, but both of those guys are going to make my final card too.
Yeah, I mean, Woodland, I think it's pretty telling that he's here. You know, he had a bad year last year, and he doesn't normally play in this event. So it seems like he probably wants to get some reps in and maybe start quicker and return to that form. Because when you see Gary Woodland, quality of golfer long-term, one of the most underrated players in the field. Yep. Short-term, he has not been playing well, and he really needs to hopefully get healthy and correct that, because he's a damn good player.
No, it's fun to see for sure. All right. Speaking of which, and I'm hoping, like you said, being a damn good player, you know, there should be some sort of correlation, and maybe you get ahead of it with bigger numbers. Let's look at the final card, right? We run through this. We remind people that we're looking at this days in advance. So could work in your favor where you see Rasa give out somebody on a final card early in the week, and then let me jump on that guy. And then you look, you've gained 1,000 points of value.
That would be lovely. You know, and the way to attack this week, I think that if you want to pick one of the big names, absolutely can be your lead guy on the card. For me, that would be Corey Connors. If you don't, though, you could start in the 40-1 range with the Grios, the Kirks, the Steels, you know, the Mullinax, the Woodlands of the world, and really build a nice balanced card like that. For me, you know, I'm going to single out Chris Kirk and Trey Mullinax. Mullinax is just playing too good for me to jump off now. And I think that's really how I attack it. The YOLO play would be Patrick Rogers, but that's more for, you know, just in case type bet.
And I get that. I understand that. I was actually going to look up and just see just for S&Gs what I could get top 40 for my guy Haas, the Hostler in the house. But no, my final card is very simple. It's Pendrith, Steele, Mullinax, Woodland, guys that I've mentioned. You mentioned Mullinax from the 40-20-10. These are all guys that I'm taking outright and then laddering, mini ladder as top 20 plays. And then Woodland, of course, is the 40-20-10. But I believe that we've got a good chunk of guys here that stand a solid chance of competing, but mostly hitting that top 20 number. And, you know, you're talking about close to 3-1 for a couple of these guys. So I absolutely want to take advantage of that. By the way, Bo Hostler, just looking at his, I don't want to do it. I don't want to.
Don't do that.
Okay, I won't push it.
He's a better outright than top 40.
You're right. I don't want to see. Sorry.
Crazy variance.
That's disappointing. All right. Hit the subscribe button. It's the big one. It's the biggest one you see down there. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, that you hit the notification bell, because as we mentioned, new shows come out every Monday. You want to be ahead of everything you see with the value. And that's really where Ben steps in. Anything you want to remind the world about, sir, before we take it on out of here?
No, my voice will be back to normal for the real season. I'm resting during swing season. It's going to be a great year. Obviously, at this channel, stay tuned. A lot more PGA content and a lot more content in general. We now have a live show every Friday talking NFL. Me and Eytan, we bring Lofty on. So just a lot of really fun things happening here at Odd Chopper. Love you guys as part of this community, building it up strong, and it's going to be a really fun PGA season.
And on that note, we'll see you Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern, and then next Monday here for another edition of Putting for Dough. Friday Eastern is the betting show. In case people, what are you talking about? Sorry. We'll see you soon at JazzRaz DFS, at Shander Show. Thanks to Chris for producing. Cash the tickets.